Do you struggle with sticking to what you say when it comes to your kids? Well, I'm here to help. Stay with me for a while and I'll show you the secret to being more consistent with your children. My name's Richard and welcome to Richard Ball Consultancy, the channel that helps parents be better. If you're a parent that struggles to be consistent with your child or children, you're not alone. Thousands of people that I've worked with over the years have this issue in some form or another. But with a little effort on your part, you can change what seems like absolute chaos at times to peaceful bliss. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating just a little bit. I guess, depending on how you live, maybe a lot. I want you to think for a minute, although you could probably think for days or maybe even months, about all the power struggles that you've had, all the wasted arguments and discussions and justifications on your decision to your own kids. If you're tired of this and you're willing to put a little bit of time and effort in, you can eliminate all of that. No more power struggles, no more wasted discussions or arguments, and no more justifications about your decisions. Consistency starts by being conscious in the mind. If you're not aware of it, then there's no way you can really focus on it or make any changes to it. It's the reason why millions of parents around the world aren't able to do this very easily. There's so many distractions going on in the lives of just being a parent alone that we miss the one really important fundamental parenting skill that would make our lives a whole lot easier if we got it right. So how do you become more consistent? I've put this down to 3 simple steps that if you can follow, it will guarantee you a whole lot more success than you may have experienced in the past. Step number 1 is to write down one thing that you want to be more consistent about in your house. So some examples of this could be as simple as getting your children to take off their shoes when they come in the house. Or maybe dinner times are a little bit hectic and chaotic that all you want is your children just to sit at the table while they're eating dinner. Or maybe you want to instill some manners in your children and have them saying please and thank you when they're asking for something or receiving something. Or the one that you can never top, and that's to get children to tidy up their toys before they're ready to move on to another activity or go to bed. If you live in a household where the behaviours are, say, slightly more extreme, you might want to think about targets like getting your children to speak respectfully towards family members. Or maybe they're constantly shouting at you, all you really want them to do is use indoor voices rather than outdoor voices. Or what if you've got 2 siblings that are constantly at each other that you really want to be more consistent in the way that you manage that? Or maybe perhaps there's a moment in a child's life, maybe not just a moment, where they're flat out ignoring you and not doing a thing that you say. Notice that I said one thing. I think it's really important to stress this point because if you do many different things, you'll easily get overwhelmed in wondering which direction you're traveling in or what you should be focusing on. So there's enough going on as it is just being a parent. Just focus on one thing. So it's easy to keep the vision clear and you can gain greater success. So step number 2 is now that you've got it clear in your head what you're looking to achieve in the house, it's time to share this with your children first of all. These are the people that we're trying to encourage the change with, and these are the people that we're going to see elements of success when we're trying to take a different approach. It helps to join them in the journey so that they can be accountable and responsible for also making those changes and getting some positive praise for doing it. One thing that parents miss when they talk to their child and everything is within the family home or the family unit is that we forget to extend this to other people outside of our family and look to extended family members. If you actually think for a moment how often your child might see your brother and sister, their uncle and auntie, or maybe a grandparent here or there from either side of the family, they might be seeing them once a week, they might be seeing them once a month. It's important to have conversations with these adults so they can also join in the journey of making that positive change. What happens is it reinforces and backs up what you're saying at home for when they go to visit these other individuals. So if they hear the same message happening in a different environment, it kind of reinforces it a bit better in their head that, oh, okay, this is coming from many different directions and something they need to pay attention to. One thing to be really aware of though is that you cannot control anything outside of yourself. So when you have this conversation with other individuals, other adults, friends of yours that you hope will join you on the journey, you need to be aware that not everybody is the same as you and not everybody is going to agree or have the same views or opinions as you. So you have to be aware that if somebody is reluctant to make these changes or doesn't want to, you have to let it go and just focus on the people and the individuals that want to help you and agree with taking that journey with you. Don't forget, you're trying to eliminate as much stress as possible. So picking an argument with a brother or sister or a mum and dad about your views being really important and not being taken seriously isn't going to be beneficial to yourself. You're trying to eliminate as much stress as possible. So you really do have to focus on the positive aspects of it and travel with those that are willing to help you on that path. And step number 3, the final step, is really a way to remind yourself or to keep you on task and to keep you focused throughout the journey. I like to do it the old school way, where you get post-it notes, get loads of them, and you put your intention or that thing that you wanted to change on the post-it note, and you plaster them all around the house where you can be reminded wherever you go. So that could be when you wake up in the morning, it could be on your bedside table. Or maybe when you go and visit the bathroom, it could be on your mirror when you're doing your makeup or shaving, whatever it might be. Or it could be in the kitchen, say, on the fridge door, when you make breakfast for them in the mornings or meals for them in the evenings. You could even put one on your front door when you're either leaving to do the school run or going to work. You want to put them anywhere in your house where you'll see them often and you'll just be reminded of the path you're trying to take. If you've got a mobile phone, this also really helps in terms of setting yourself alarms or reminders. I don't know about you, but I probably wouldn't set daily reminders, because I know that when I've had daily reminders go off in my phone before, it's not very long before you mentally switch off, because you keep hearing the same thing, you know what it's going to be before it's even rung. And so when it does, you're very easy to just press snooze, 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 but eventually you'll lose, because you'll lose all focus in the long run. So try and set weekly reminders, or maybe fortnightly or monthly reminders, long enough for you to possibly forget, so that when you do and you're reminded after a week or two, you can remember, that's what I need to be focusing on, or that's what I forgot and need to be reminded of. And also, if you're lucky enough to have a partner or a spouse, you can check in with each other and have agreements that when things go slipping, that you'll remind each other what the focus is and where you need to be traveling. Although that can either work very positively or it can have a negative effect depending on the relationship. If you work very cohesively together and you support each other and it's very natural, then fine, have those conversations. But if you find that it's a very nitpicky kind of relationship and it's a kind of name, blame and shame kind of culture, then maybe stick to not having that conversation or reminding each other, and just stick to the post-it notes and the phone messages. So I got some top tips to help you go the distance and actually see it through to the end. Lots of parents start off with really good intention and are highly motivated in the start and want to do the best they can. There are a couple of things that discourage parents from taking that journey to fruition or all the way. It's really, really important to think about timeframes when you're thinking about making long-term change. When you're thinking about timeframes, you really need to be thinking about how long the behavior has been presenting itself to you. If the behavior is relatively new and you've only been experiencing for a few weeks, then no big deal. It shouldn't take more than a couple of weeks to correct that behavior to a more positive one. Whereas if it's more ingrained and it's lasted maybe 6 months or maybe even a year, mentally you really need to be stepping into it with the same amount of time in your head in order to resolve the situation. Now, a year sounds long. Yes, it is. When you see it from a child's perspective, if they're 9 or 10 years old, that's a whole 10th of their life. They've been allowed to get away with a certain behavior without it being checked for quite a long time in their lives. So you have to invest that time into making those positive changes with them. If you had a short time frame and you expected things to resolve themselves in a week when they've been going on for, say, 6 months, then very quickly you can get dejected and feel like, well, this just isn't worth it because it's just not working. And a lot of parents do that because I guess we live in a culture where we want a quick fix. And unfortunately, things don't really work like that when it comes to children. We have to put the work in. Having a realistic time frame with, say, 6 months or a year in mind will help you in those difficult times when things aren't going so well. So if in month 1 you're having some teething problems and things seem to be going on the decline, at least you know in the back of your head, well, there is a longer game than just 1 month, and this might have to last for 6 months or a year. And in that, you're going to get waves where things look like they're getting better and they might look like they're getting worse. But in the long term, at least you can last the distance a lot easier. The other really important thing I want to talk about before I leave is about resistance. Resistance is one of those things that in most cases is pretty inevitable. I've been working with children for over 20 years now, and I see very, very similar patterns when you're looking to encourage some positive changes in children. And one of those is resistance. There are reasons why children might resist you more when you're trying to make some positive changes, as what you're trying to change might not work in their favor. I'll give you an example. Let's say your average routine is to come in, take your shoes off, wash your hands, have a snack, do your homework, and when all those things are done, you can then have some special time of your own where you can play with your toys, read a book, go on the computer, or maybe play a console game. So if you set that time to be half an hour and you're not being consistent with it, chances are it's never really going to be shorter than half an hour. But there probably are going to be days when you've got busy schedules or other things to think about, where that time is going to extend. And it might be way longer than half an hour. It might go into 45 minutes or an hour, maybe even an hour and a half. But the fact is that child will perceive it as, you said half an hour and now I've managed to get an hour. So from the child's perspective, that's a bonus. So when you walk in one day, maybe after watching this video, thinking, right, I'm going to impose some positive changes here and I'm going to be way more consistent about certain things that I do. And you tell your child this, if I gave you the scenario that I just gave you, a child's going to look at that and go, I'm losing out here. So what does anyone do when they've got a good thing going and it's threatened to be taken away? They will resist it and they'll want to keep it. So what might a child do in order to get that hour or keep it? Well, you could maybe slap your younger brother and sister around the head and kind of look in surprise, like, I don't know who did that, when you clearly know it was them. Or maybe it's time to go to bed and everybody's reluctant to get into the bathroom and brush their teeth, and they're just dragging their heels and just won't go up to bed when you need them to, and just frustrate the living daylights out of you. Whatever it is, as long as they can tap into your emotions and get you thinking irrationally, that will help take you off the scent of being consistent. Being consistent comes from thinking logically and thinking rationally, whereas when you're frustrated or emotional, you can lose that very easily. And you go into that fight or flight part of your brain that doesn't think rationally or sensibly, and everything kind of goes out the window. So if a child can get you to that state, then they're kind of winning, because they now have you all emotional and not thinking about being consistent at all. So when you see resistance, don't look at it as a negative thing. It's not necessarily a positive thing, I guess, because it never looks that great. It comes with, negative outbursts, it comes with raised voices, it comes with angry words and stuff like that, that most people probably wouldn't see as being positive in any way. It's not. But it's not worth getting involved emotionally when you're trying to encourage these changes, because a child will know when they've got you riled up. So just try and keep it neutral in your head emotionally to say, this is part of the journey. This is something that I expect and something that I'm willing to go with in terms of getting to that positive place that you're trying to get to. Your child will notice those vibes if they see it, and if they know they can't rile you emotionally, they might feel like, oh, well, this isn't working, maybe I need to listen to what they're saying. I'm very aware after making today's video that I haven't been very specific about anything that you want to be consistent about. I really wanted to focus on just the art of being consistent. But I do realize there are 1,000,001 different things that you can be consistent about or not be. If you have any comments about specific things that you want to be more consistent about and you want some tips and tricks, please comment below and I'll answer them as best as I can. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and also share if you think it might benefit a friend of yours. I hope you enjoyed the video and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Good luck with being consistent and let me know how you got on. Until next time, bye bye for now.